Welcome to Land Beat. My name is Wesley McConnell. We're here in north central Louisiana on a duck farm that we got about 18 months ago, maybe just a little longer than that. When we got it, all this timber, it was like May and June, and all this timber was flooded. And that's unfortunate. You don't want your timber to be flooded that long into the year. But the reason why it was flooded is because they had a water control structure here, and they had their flashboard riser system on the uphill side, which is traditionally where you'd put a flashboard riser system to hold back the water. And they had used some other little pipes like this right here. This is a perforated pipe. You can see kind of a hole right here, another hole right here, another hole right here. So beavers, they have a hard time damming something like this up, but this wasn't, I mean, there wasn't enough pipe here like this to keep the beavers from damming it up. I mean, they had fencing around the water control structure and everything. They had done everything they knew how to do to keep them out, but they were not winning the war on the beavers. And the beavers had it all dammed up, and so we had to rent a Mini X, and we came out here and we dug it out, got the water off the property, and we left it for about a year while we were trying to figure out what to do. In fact, on another farm, we tried a design where we put the flashboard riser on the outside of the farm, and on the inside, we took a plastic culvert, we took a chainsaw and we just cut slots in it, you know, and then we put a big plastic barrel over the end of it, and that worked really well to keep the water moving. Unfortunately, those plastic pipes, you know, I mean, they like to float, you know, so we couldn't keep them secured down well enough, at least we didn't. And also, when it popped up, where the plastic met the metal, we ended up getting a lot, you know, I mean, it broke the seal, and we ended up getting a lot of, and then the beaver just dammed it up again. So, so we didn't quite win on that farm, but what we did here on this farm, after learning that, is we just went with all metal from one end to the other. We've got a 50-inch metal pipe here. I mean, you can see us, we were just pulled out some of these boards of this flashboard riser system, you know, and what's awesome about this is the flashboard riser system, it'll let you flood the water depth over here however you want, you know, I mean, whatever height you need it to be. This is a 2x6 here that we've got, and you could do 2x4s, you could do 2x8s, you could do 2x12s. I mean, a 2x6 is just kind of easier to handle, you know, I mean, and pop it out. And that's not traditional. Normally you'd have this flashboard riser system on the uphill side. We put it on the downhill side. We put some of this recycled poly pipe and put it on the inside to just help keep the seal. And on this side, we just beefed this up, you know, this plastic corrugated pipe, and we have a metal pipe that runs for about 20 foot out there that has perforations in it. And we'll get to show you some of those perforations later once the water goes down, but I mean, they're anywhere from 12 to 18 inches long, 2 inches wide, and it's just slots all in that pipe, and we capped the end of the pipe so that they couldn't put anything down the middle of the pipe. You know, and they just can't figure out how to dam those slots off. Now, eventually, over decades, they may silt in and everything else, but man, this pipe's gonna last us my lifetime. I mean, you're talking about 40, 50 years. We're gonna be able to come in here if they ever do get it dammed up, or if it ever silts in, and just take a big track hoe and just ease along the side of that metal pipe and clean it out and keep it going for another 20, 30 years, you know? So, I mean, I'm super excited about how this is going. Another great thing about this system is, you know, those wildlife biologists, and I'm not one, but I've talked to enough of them to kind of understand a good concept of when you're doing your drawdown in these water areas that you're flooding in the fall, and you're trying to get grasses and other vegetation growing in the spring, summer months, it's good to do a slow drawdown. So you don't want to pull all your water off all at once. What you want to be able to do is pull one board at a time, or crack a board, even take a piece of dowel or a piece of pipe and stick it in maybe between your bottom two boards. And what's awesome about this is we can get to our bottom boards here, you know, and we can do those slow drawdowns that allow for a lot of different mix of vegetation to come up for the ducks, because the ducks love a good mix of vegetation. And if you pull all your water off at once, then you might have a monoculture come up, because all the same seeds are getting out at the same time, and the soil temperature, the air temperature, and everything, the growing season, it's only good for that one plant. But if you draw it down over a longer period of time, you've got a lot longer period. So you have things that germinate early will come up in some areas. The things that, you know, would germinate in the mid-season would come up, and then the things that would germinate all the way into the summer months will continue to come up. So that's really what you want for your best duck food, your best duck native habitats and native grasses, native forbs and seeds and stuff like that. So this design has worked perfectly so far, and I'm super excited about being able to use this in some other hunting situations on some other properties.